Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode of Tactical Friday. You heard from him this past Monday, and I'm welcoming Tony Mayne of Ranger for Life and Gallant Few back to the show. Tony, welcome back, my friend.
Hey, it's good to be back. Thanks for having me, Zach.
Man, I'm super excited to have you back on because I want to get tactical about what you're doing and accomplishing in the veteran community. Obviously, we talked a lot about Ranger for Life and the pieces of things you're doing there to promote, but also Gallant Few. We talked about it, and there's this one piece of Gallant Few that I actually want to dive further into and give the opportunity for you to explain the process of this transition piece that you're helping veterans with. And you have this thing called the Gallant Few Azimuth Check, and you have it on the website, and it's pretty much the tip of the spear for getting engaged with everything you're doing. Can you explain to us what the azimuth check is, what the azimuth is in for those civilians listening? What is an azimuth? A lot of them might not know that piece. Explain all that, and then what a veteran can expect as they're hitting this transition point and engaging with you.
Happy to. And we're blessed that we were founded by Carl Monger, a First Ranger Battalion veteran. And he really put together this idea that you can get to where you're going if you know how to get there, right? Like, so that makes sense. And so periodically you should check on your path. That makes sense. And so the azimuth check was born. It's a 25 question assessment over 5 categories of functional fitness, right? So pretty much clinically recognized functional fitness, socially, spiritually, professionally, as well as emotionally and physically, like where you rate how you feel about yourself, right? We receive that at Gallant Few, and then we have a one-on-one conversation about what you talk about. And that could be anything from transition, which is my specialty, to reintegration. And we call reintegration basically anything along those functional fitness areas that you might think need to be reblued or relooked at a little bit so that you can live kind of like an optimal life, right? And so most of the people who come into Gallant Few at gallantfew.org and take the azimuth check right there on the main page, they're actually veterans. And they've made the decision, right? And they're taking the steps of taking the azimuth check as a way to say, I want to get a little bit better in something, right? And we see the gambit across those 5 functional fitness areas. There are some people who are just out of shape. And it's as simple as, well, you stop doing your routine. All right, what can we do? And so to work through with those veterans who are in the reintegration space, we have something called Vet Star Coaching, right? Which is a process to triage and then help a veteran reach the outcomes that they want to reach. And it's military in nature. It's based on accountability. You've got to show up. You've got to be honest. You've got to write down your objectives of where you want to go. Our founder, Carl Monger, if I would have used the word goal right there, would have came out of the skies and shot me down, because we don't set goals. We set bulleted objectives, things that are measurable that we will reach, right, to move to the next phase on our journey. So that's a little bit about the azimuth check. It's universal intake for Gallant Few, which is where everybody starts. If someone contacts me today, I'll talk to them and say, hey, but I want you to take this azimuth check. And what we find, shockingly, is that people who are devoted to doing self-assessment, i.e., they want to learn about themselves, they want to grow, and they want to get better, they rate themselves higher in most of those categories over time. You see what you would kill for in business, right? You see that steady increase in growth, right? But the veteran has to want to do it. And we want to help those that want to do it. Since 2010, over 10,000 services provided to over 4,000 veterans, right? And everybody started with that azimuth check, Zach.
Absolutely love that because overall, the azimuth is like finding that direction, right? Where do you go next? And it points you
Staying
in
on,
that way,
right?
right?
Like you said,
Right.
you wanted to do X. Okay, if
Yeah.
you want to pivot, we'll shoot a different azimuth. But yes, you've got to stay on path and check in the woods every once in a while. Probably makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's so key for veterans where we sometimes forget like that is that piece, right? You got to look down, you got to check the compass, you got to see which way you're going, especially as you prepare for that transition. And I'm curious, as this is happening, where would you recommend a veteran kind of stepping into thinking about these things 6 months before they get out? As they're getting out, after they get out, where is this point of where they should be engaging with somebody like you in this piece of it?
All right. So if we're talking transition, right? So transitioning out of active duty or retiring from the guard, whatever it may be, the one thing that the Department of Defense has gotten 100% right is that they set that initial pre-separation counseling for retirees at 24 months prior to retirement and 18 months prior to separating service members. And this is why, if I can just give a quick vignette, and I'm happy to help anyone with their individual transition, it's what I do. And I love to do it. I'm blessed to be able to do it. If you start at 18 months, right, and you start with the end in mind of I get out 18 months later, well, I know I have to do a VA claim. I would be very wise to try my career before I bought it, i.e., do a fellowship for 6 months prior. I probably need to do research. There's probably some background on the medical stuff I need to do. I probably want to get my finances in line if I've just been doing the TSP and now we're going to go into a new program. I probably have to get healthcare. You start dialing all those things back, and now you're at the 12-month mark. Here on Fort Benning, it's taken 2 to 3 months to get medical records. So if you want to submit a VA claim at the 6-month mark, which is the earliest you can, now all of a sudden I burned 2 months as you're waiting. And then you have follow-up procedures. So I could do this forever, but that 18 months for somebody getting out pre-ETS and then 24 months somebody pre-retirement. It's the military, right? We teach folks to plan, and that planning is important, because with planning and time, you're able to pivot, and you're able to pivot and make a good, educated decision. So those are the timelines.
I love that, because you got to be thinking proactively. You can't just wait for, and I don't know if this is necessarily the mindset that we have, that you kind of see it in the veteran world. You wait to get out, and it's like, oh yeah, it'll be, I'll be okay. Somebody will take care of it for me. We almost in the military have that mindset of like, we're told what to do. We know that next step. You already dictated this is going to be your next step. But there's nobody like that when you transition out. Nobody's going to tell you, here's the next step. Here's the next thing for you to go and accomplish. We will accomplish it, but you have to identify that next step. So I think this is a great introduction into that piece of like, start being proactive in planning. This is where you have to go next.
You've got to have a team. And so let me just write this down if you're listening in transition. All right. You need a person or an organization. We'd be happy to be that organization. If you don't want to use us, I'd be happy to tell you the best organization. You need an organization. You need a veteran service officer to work with you to submit your VA claim. You need that. If you do not have a financial planner, it is time to think like your civilian peers and at least speak with one and get a consultation. You will most likely, unless you're a retiree, move over your TSP. It could be thrift savings plan. That could be a very important decision. If you come from a background and a family that have not taught you about finances, use your transition time and resources available to become more smarter, or find that person who can help you. Question I ask my people is, can you tell me that you make more money for yourself than if you paid someone to do it? I don't care what you think about paying somebody else to do it. I don't care about your background and what your dad does. Show me black and white that you've talked to somebody and what you do makes you more money. If you can, that's win. That's a win. You want to know that answer. Okay. Tangent soapbox. I get excited about finances because it was my biggest hurdle growing up, and something that allows me, that I got under control and understand, to work a nonprofit job and be happy for the rest of my life. Right? I can work a purposeful job because the money's taken care of, because I listened when somebody tried to help me. Okay, so we said, get a transition person. That's a thing. Have a VSO, veteran service officer. That's a thing. Have a finance person. Well, that's a thing. And then another one I highly recommend, okay, we call it down here in Rangerland, cognitive coaches, cognitive performance coaches. Your brain is the strongest muscle in your body. The military has spent millions on all of your other muscles and taught you training regimes. Figure out what you want to do for your mind. For me, it's my spiritual fitness. That's a huge thing. It provides routine in the day. I try to kind of do what Jesus did, because to me, like, he's my leader, right? So I try to start the day in prayer, reading the Bible, devotion, then I do cardio, which I hate, then I do the physical stuff, and I'm hitting all my functional fitness areas in my routine, right? So find out what is best for you what you like to do, if it's reading, if it's yoga, if it's meditating, if you take care of your strongest muscle in your body, the first thing that you do, everything from there, you will see the benefits. So there's just four quick ones to get started.
Tony, I love it. It's such great input and insight attached to it, and I think it's such a great need that you're meeting with Gallant Few and Ranger for Life and everything you're accomplishing. Can you remind everybody where they can go to, of course, check out your podcast, connect with you, connect with everything you're doing?
Well, first of all, if you just go to gallantfew.org, you can find that azimuth check that Zach was talking about. If you go to gallantfew.org/the rock, that's where we're coming to you today. That's where I'm at here in beautiful Columbus, Georgia. And on there, you will see a list of programs that we just do out of the rock. And you can find the Warriors Walk blog if you kind of want to dive into some practical devotional type things. We got a More Elite podcast link is on there, over 60 episodes with Rangers, military supporters, just telling their stories of transition, lessons learned, sharing the dirt, sharing the good things as well. So just start with gallantfew.org. And if you want to contact me, go to LinkedIn is the easiest way. It's the way you'll get a fastest result. But if you want to email, I'm Tony@gallantfew.org. Happy to speak with you.
Love it, Tony. Thank you so much for everything, my friend. Thanks for bringing in more awesome stuff for the veteran community, and I appreciate you, man. And everybody, definitely reach out with Tony, find out how they can be involved with everything you're doing. And overall, man, thanks so much for your time and the efforts you brought to us, my friend.
Zach, hey, I appreciate what you're doing for the community. It goes back to the Care Bears, man. Like I finally realized it. Like sharing is actually caring, and once you kind of understand that, you're like, yeah, this reaches somebody, it's worth it. Thank you, Zach.